Hello everybody, welcome to the Daily Sip. My name is Oliver. My mission is to bring you closer to organic Japanese green tea, and today we're going to dive into one of our top sellers, into the Gyokuro Cha Musume from Mr. Sakamoto. So this tea is a special type of green tea when we go in or dive into the Japanese green tea. So when we talk about Japanese green tea, normal green tea is the sencha. Sencha, just normal plain planted tea. Sometimes it's a little bit shaded, so going into the kabusu sencha, or we just talk about sencha. So this is the leaf, the rolled leaf, and then consumed with its quite vegetal and very normal and also known taste. But when we go into a little bit of a higher grade tea, we dive into the region or into the sector of the Gyokuro. Gyokuro, also known as the Jade Dew, or also known under the name of the Emperor's Tea, is the highest quality green tea in Japan and is known for its long shading period. So when we talk about the shading, what do we mean exactly? So this happens, this was something that was discovered by the Japanese tea farmers, which by coincidence was out of a cold winter when they started to cover in the south the tea plants with nets just to protect them from the cold wind, to protect them against frost, so that the leaves don't get frost bites. They realized that the shading actually provokes a sweet and also savory, beautiful savory tea taste. And this was discovered by the tea merchant Yamamoto, and he was actually then bringing this to Tokyo, and people were just going for it, and they really were becoming big fans of this type of tea. And until 1841 this tea has perfected or has become or can refined, and then it was launched in 1841 into the tea market under the name Gyokuro. And Gyokuro is also a tea which you can store for several amount of years and without it getting worse in quality. It is even said that the Gyokuro reaches its top-notch quality after around 3 years of storage. So Gyokuro, a very special tea, but let's first dive a little bit into the story of this tea and about the farmer. So when we talk about the Cha Musume, we are talking about the region of Kagoshima, the region of Shibushi to be exact, and there lives Mr. Sakamoto and his brother. They're actually cultivating green tea since 1985, and they were in their region one of the first farmers kind of making the change from conventional pesticide farming to non-pesticide organic farming. By the time this was something quite new, wasn't really seen as something very common, and a little bit, maybe you might say, weird at the time. But Mr. Sakamoto was convinced that due to several cancer cases in his family, that this was also coming from the work together with chemical pesticides, and that's why he decided also, due to this, really change all his farming, all his 4 acres, which is quite a small farm, into organic tea planting. And they said it took him around 7 years to convert the tea into a good organic green tea. So for 7 years they struggled a little bit with selling. After this period, they were really confident that the tea quality they were producing was really a high standard. And he also is known to have a great quality green tea. He's highly appreciated, and now just recently, with around 62, he became the president of the agricultural or of the Organic Agricultural Association of Kagoshima. So now he is also promoting Japanese green tea in organic planting all around Kagoshima, and he's in direct exchange with all the farmers which are planting organic tea fields. So this is something he really appreciates, and we appreciate him for that. And what is also a fun fact, actually, when you look at the packaging, you see that this drawing is very beautifully done. So I can get it close a little bit. So Musume is called daughter, and this tea then has a beautiful kind of a drawing of a young girl on it. And Mr. Sakamoto is actually an educated painter, so what he did is he studied actually painting, which makes him just a fantastic painter, and he draws all the packagings himself. When we have a look at the tea leaves, what we see is that these tea leaves are very, very beautifully dark. So what happens actually with the Gyokuro is that thanks to the long shading period, around 21 days, that's what Mr. Sakamoto is applying, these tea leaves, they really don't see the sunlight anymore. And what happens in the tea plant is that on the one hand, the tea plant starts to protect itself stronger, so the increase or the caffeine content increases in the tea leaves. But as well, there's more chlorophyll produced by the tea plant, because the tea plant still tries to absorb the maximum of sunlight, which is the nutrient beside the nutrient of the soil, which it absorbs through the roots. And then the tea leaves become very, very dark and very beautiful, like this one's here. You can see how dark the tea leaves are. And when you compare it also to a normal stench, you can see that there's this intense dark color, which is known for this tea. And also, when we talk about caffeine, I also mentioned it before, it is the highest caffeinated tea besides matcha of all Japanese green tea. It is said that there are around 130 milligrams per 4 to 5 grams of leaves in this tea, which is around the main content of an Arabica coffee or a Robusta coffee, which tends to be around 120 milligrams. So in terms of caffeine, we are quite at the same level than with coffee. But what is especially important or interesting about green tea is that you have here the highest, or one of the highest sources of theanine, L-theanine exactly, which means that this tea is quite rich in amino acids. And together with the polyphenol and L-theanine, what actually happens is that the caffeine is bound with these particles, and then the absorption of the caffeine doesn't happen through the stomach, but to the intestines, which is then leading to a much calmer and much more relaxed effect of the tea. And additionally, the L-theanine is one of the rare compounds which breaks through the brain-blood barrier in your brain. So, and it provokes the production of alpha brainwaves. Alpha brainwaves, when you meditate, this kind of relaxed meditative state. So this tea helps also not only with meditation, but brings you in a more relaxed and a calm and a more focused state. And then finally, this helps you throughout the day, especially when you have a stressing day and you need to be awake and calm. This tea could be quite a good addition to your coffee, or it could be just a perfect companion throughout your day. This is what I wanted to talk about the tea. So what we talk about is really long shaded tea. We know we can store it for long, so if you store it good, you can keep it for a long time. It is high in caffeine. It is also relaxing thanks to the high amount of L-theanine. So we talk about 70 to 90 milligrams, which is, so when we dive a little bit into literature, there's not kind of a maximum amount of L-theanine which you can take, but it is recommended that it should be between 70 and 100 milligrams. So here we are in the perfect bracket with this tea. So if you want to have a good dose of L-theanine, this calming and also a little bit stress relieving compound in your beverage, then Gyokuro can definitely be a solution for you. When we brew this tea, so what we need is water. So I preheated water here on 60 degrees Celsius, which is 140 Fahrenheit. What is important to know, and this is something I will dive into another video, is that when you brew the tea at a little bit of a lower temperature, then you extract less of the caffeine. So here we talk maybe about 70% of the caffeine, which we are able to extract. So if you're a little bit sensitive to caffeine, the lower the temperature, the lower the caffeine content. But this, I guess, I will do in another video. What I take with this tea here, so you can see it's not a very big cube that I'm using. So when you want to brew a Gyokuro, I suggest you to try a little bit out with smaller quantities of water, because then you really can savor the complexity, the taste of this tea. I also like to brew it with kind of a 2 deciliter, 200 milliliter, 250 milliliters of water. Here I will reach maximally 150. It really depends what you're looking for. If you're looking more for hydration, then go for a bigger teapot. If you really look for the taste complexity, you can go to a smaller teapot. Today I'm gonna use this one, but you can even go even smaller, like this one here. And there are specific Also Gyokuro teapots, which you can buy, for example, the Hohin, which is a different shape, but they are definitely, this is really made for Gyokuro. But today we're gonna stay with the standard Kyusu, which I have here. So what you can do actually, if you want to preheat your Kyusu, you can just pour in a little bit of water and then just pour it out. Then you take 5 grams of leaves, that's what I prepared here. And I just drink this. And then we're gonna add the water. So very important, when you do the green tea or the Gyokuro green tea, there is a difference between the sencha and Gyokuro. As Gyokuro is really tightly rolled, you have to give the tea a little bit more of time to just unfold. Here we talk about 2 minutes. So I'm gonna leave in these leaves for 2 minutes and just let them really give a beautiful taste to the tea itself. Later you will see what is also nice, due to the amino acids, the rich amino acids, the high L-theanine content, you will see that when you brew a Gyokuro, normally there's a slight milky tone with it, so a little bit of a milky appearance of the tea, normally very beautiful green. Not as intense as like, for example, a Fukamushi, but still a very nice green color to it. So this is also a sign also that the tea is very, very rich in minerals. And what Japanese farmer also apply is that they apply during the period also of the shading, especially nutrient-rich fertilizer. Mr. Sakamoto, for example, he does his own fertilizer and prepares it on the base of soybeans or soybeans residues from the soybean production, and really creates a fertilizer which has a lot of nutrients. And then the plant, as the plant during the shading gets in kind of a little bit of a stressed phase, because it really tries to absorb the maximum amount of light, so it produces chlorophyll, it highly protects itself by producing more caffeine, and then it absorbs the most amount or the richest amount of nutrients. And that's why also the umami taste, or this typical savory taste, is the strongest with the Gyokuro. So we have now 1.5 minutes. We see that the tea is unfolding very beautifully, and now slowly we can go into taking this tea. Voila, and let's go. Then try to get out all of the water. Very important that there's no post brewing. There's no water staying in. Here we talk about 1.5-year-old Gyokuro, so this one here is around 1.5 years old. So you can really see that we have a beautiful liquor of this tea, and also really enjoy a beautiful kind of slightly, you see that it's slightly milky, so you can only see my finger very slight. So there is a very nutrient-rich tea which I have in front of me. But let's dive now into the taste. First is a beautiful sweet tone. You have a little bit of banana peel, sweet corn, slightly roasted flavor as well, coming from the sweet notes of the tea. And let's go into the taste. What you realize immediately is this beautiful sweet corny. I get a lot of banana peel, I get a little bit of pineapple, I get a little bit also of mango. So it's very strong on the sweet side, but at the same time it's a little bit brothy, it's a little bit kind of nearly salty. So it's a super complex tea which plays around in different areas, but all in all it stays a very sweet, very delicate Also very complex tea, but you have different taste tones, taste notes now, which even more developed. Now I get a little bit more of a tingling, a little bit more of the savory taste profile in the notes. So there's a very complex and very broad array, and it is especially important when you go for, or you will see when you go for a lower quantity of water, there you definitely have this experience of a good quality kind of taste experience in a very broad array. And the more water you use, the less you will have also the savory taste. So you have a little bit more of a sweeter tea, but also have a little bit less of complexity of the tea. So it really depends what you're looking for in the tea. So maybe you test it out with different kind of amounts of water, and then you decide for yourself which is kind of the amount you like the most. I'll maybe go in a second brewing now. Second brewing, super easy. So you just add the same amount of water, but you can take the leaves directly, as the leaves are now already pretty unfold, so they just will give directly their taste to the tea water, so there's no problem just to use the tea directly. I would say 20 seconds is more than enough. And then you just pour yourself a second glass, and you can see it goes a little bit more into a slightly more greener note. So when we look at this, we have a little bit more of a green note, and very beautiful in terms of its color. Still a little bit dusty, although not dusty, but a little bit milky. And now I'm very curious if there's not only a change in color, but also a change in the taste. So in the second brewing, so the first was very fruity with this banana peel, pineapple, mango. Here, the sweetness goes a little bit down. I have a beautiful round taste as well, quite a nice sweetness. You have a little bit less of the mango, less of the sweetness. You have a little bit more of the sweet corn flavor, and you have an additional vegetal note which is coming in with the second brewing. So the vegetal taste now takes a little bit over, and it balances out the tea. So it also, from brewing to brewing, you can really experience a different taste profile. What I suggest is to really go to 3 or even 4 brewings with this tea. You will discover really different taste profiles of the tea. First one, very smooth, very sweet, fruity, and then going over more into a vegetal taste. So Gyokuro, definitely a specialty to try, definitely a tea which is worth exploring. Try it with different amounts of water. You can even try it with different temperatures. It is said that Gyokuro should be brewed between 50 and 60 degrees Celsius, so around 125 to 140 Fahrenheit. But you can also go up to 70 or 80 degrees Celsius, so up to 175 Fahrenheit. Around there, you can also experience a more vegetal taste, because it's a little bit more of the catechins, more of the flavonoids are extracted and giving a little bit of an astringent taste as well, but as well more of a kind of a vegetal taste. So experience it for yourself, try it out in different schemes. Here I just brewed it the normal way, let's say it like this, or the traditional way. Here 120 to 150 milliliters water, 6 degrees Celsius, and you can go up to 4 brewings, and just try for yourself what you finally like the most. I'll be happy if you leave a comment, ask me a question. I'll be more than happy to answer them, and guess I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot for watching. See you and bye bye.